Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire. Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Bhagavate Rutamashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. Om Agnanatimirandasya Gnananjana Shalakaya. Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Himate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 22, verse 52. गृहेषु वर्तमानोऽपि ससाम्राज्य श्रियान्वितः नासज्जत् नासज्जतेन्द्रियार्थेषु निरहं मतिरर्कवत्. Maharaja Prthu, who was very opulent due to the prosperity of his entire empire, remained at home as a householder. Since he was never inclined to utilize his opulences for the gratification of his senses, he remained unattached, exactly like the sun, which is unaffected in all circumstances. The word griheshu is significant in this verse. Out of the four ashramas, only grihastha is allowed to associate with women. Therefore, the grihastha ashrama is a kind of license for sense gratification given to the devotee. Prthu Maharaj was special in that although he was given license to remain a householder, and although he possessed immense opulences in his kingdom, he never engaged in sense gratification. This was a special sign that indicated him to be a pure devotee of the Lord. A pure devotee is never attracted by sense gratification. Consequently, he is liberated. In material life, a person engages in sense gratification for his own personal satisfaction. But in devotional or liberated life, one aims to satisfy the senses of the Lord. Again, so it's very clear, if we are engaging in sense gratification, then it cannot be called a devotional life. It will have to be called material life. Devotional life means one aims only to satisfy the senses of the Lord. In this verse, Maharaja Prthu is likened to the sun, Arkavat. Sometimes the sun shines on stool, urine, and so many other polluted things. But since the sun is all powerful, it is never affected by the polluted things with which it associates. On the contrary, the sunshine sterilizes and purifies polluted and dirty places. Similarly, a devotee may engage in so many material activities, but because he has no desire for sense gratification, they never affect him. So here when we talk about material activities, it's not sense gratificatory activities. It is activities in connection with this material world. For example, Prabhupada says dealing with money, dealing with outsiders, and all these things. Material, so-called material activities, because these activities are happening on the material platform, at least externally. But because it is all being done for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord, they are actually transcendental. But they, so for example, a devotee is engaged in haggling with, with some person, trying to reduce the price. That does not affect him. On the contrary, he dovetails all material activities for the service of the Lord. On the contrary, he dovetails all material activities for the service of the Lord. Since the pure devotee knows how to utilize everything for the Lord's service, he is never affected by material activities. Instead, by his transcendental plans, he purifies such activities. This is described in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Sarvapadi Vinirmuktam Tat Paratvena Nirmalam. His aim is to become completely purified in the service of the Lord without being affected by material designation. So this is our aim, is to become completely purified. Meaning no desire for sense gratification. Serving Lord only for his pleasure and without being affected by material designations. Sarva Upadi. What Upadi? All, maybe father, mother, grandfather, grandmother, head of the family, some person of some position at work, some person with some position in a congregation of devotees. It could be anything, not being affected by those designations. One should be completely pure. So we should always be careful, when we are engaging outside material activities anyway. It's very easy to understand. We should not be affected by La Puja Pratishtha outside, right? But even within ISKCON, within devotional community, we have to be very careful to make sure that we are not engaging in devotion for La Puja Pratishtha. Mm. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur calls it Shukarera Bhishta, meaning hog's stool. Like we've given up external attachment and we become attached within ISKCON. That's not good either. Everything is being done for the pleasure of the Lord. If the Lord wants, He will keep me in some position. He will give me some position and power and etc. If He doesn't want, He will take it away. That's all. But we should never do anything. Actually, we've seen sometimes some devotees are try to be more favorable to some devotees and not to others. Mm. Some, their own maybe core set of devotees, etc. These are all material. Mm. Why should we be partial to some and not partial to or impartial or whatever? Why should we treat different devotees differently? Mm. It's only service. For example, if somebody is okay, extra dedicated to doing service, committed, etc. Okay. In case something needs to be done for to help out that devotee in some situation, okay, that can be done, but not just because I like somebody, I don't like somebody. Again, these things are all very mundane. Mm. We should never, especially when we are the devotees who are taking care of preaching centers, etc. We have to be very careful. We are not doing anything for anybody's personal satisfy them like that, etc. For example, many times we see, oh, okay, give special importance to donors. Why others are not doing service, is it? We should treat everybody equally. Mm, because even if somebody is giving money, it doesn't mean that they brought us. And they are purifying their earning, that's all. Somebody else has given their life for Krishna. So everybody has to be treated equally. So all these are all different types of contaminations within devotional community. Mm. So we have to remain our whole and soul focus should be just to please the Lord. And I see also devotees creating groups. Mm. I'm very, very about these groups. And typically these groups are driven by language to start with. So if there is, say, Kannada speaking group, Hindi speaking group, Bengali speaking group, Odia speaking group, they all become like groups. Again, it's all upadhi. It's all designations. Okay, I'm from Bengal, you're also from Bengal, so we are, dear to each other. All upadhi. So we should not be affected by all this. Our sole aim should be how to completely purify, be pure in the service of the Lord. We have to be we have to be careful about these things. एवम् अध्यात्मयोगेन कर्माणि अनुसमाचरन् पुत्रान् उत्पादयाम आसा panchārshishyātma-sammatān. Being situated in the liberated position of devotional service. Prthu Maharaj not only performed all fruitive activities but also begot 5 sons by his wife Archi. Indeed, all his sons were begotten according to his own desire. So he was engaged in so-called material activities but completely disconnected, detached. As a householder, Prthu Maharaj had 5 sons by his wife Archi, and all these sons were begotten as he desired them. They were not born whimsically or by accident. You see devotees saying, "Oh, we didn't plan for this." I mean, even after taking initiation, etc., the people talk about things like, "I did not plan for it," which means obviously, which means they were using contraceptives, which is accidentally giving, that, oh, we're not planning for a second child. All sense gratification. It's not good. Mm. So here it's very clear. Prithu Maharaj begotten as he desired, when he desired, not some suddenly some accident happened. Hmm. How one can beget children according to one's own desire is practically unknown in the present age, Kali Yuga. Of course, this also is about Garbhadhana Samskar. In this regard, the secret of success depends on the parents' acceptance of the various purificatory methods known as samskaras. The first samskara, the Garbhadhana Samskara, or child begetting samskara, is compulsory, especially for the higher caste, the Brahmanas and the Kshatriyas. It's compulsory for devotees because they will get, devotee children in their house, and which is such a blessing uh, that, they will actually help us make progress. Uh, so we know devotees in our devotee circles who have done some aspects of Garbhadhana Samskara, not even fully, and they've been so, blessed with such nice devotee children. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, sex life which is not against religious principles is Krishna himself. Not against religious principles. What is against religious principles? Engaging in sex for sense gratification is against religious principle. And if we talk about this in ISKCON, they say, no, 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 this is all why be so strict. Hmm. All married devotees engage in this activity. It's normal. What is normal? It is totally abnormal. Uh, and especially those who are getting initiated, right? They have to be very clear about this. Saying this is against that religious principle. If you are engaging in sexual activity for not begetting children, then it is demoniac. It's not against. It's not as per religious principle. And according to religious principle, one wants to beget a child, he must perform the Garbhadhana Samskara before having sex. And what is the central theme here? Is the mental state of the father and mother before sex will certainly affect the mentality of the child to be begotten. If children are produced like cats and dogs, then they will also have cats and dogs mentality. A child who is begotten out of lust may not turn out as the parents desire. Mm, we have experience in our life. When our daughter was born, we were in animalistic uh, mindset, mental state. So it's so difficult. Now we want suddenly our daughter to become a devotee. It's not possible. Of course, we keep praying, trying, etc. Right? But it's very very clear actually. Mental state affects the. And today also so many children, parents struggle to, even uh, the kids are shouting and yelling and they don't want to listen to their parents. And that was the mental state of the parents. Now the parents are upset. Oh, saying, what is this? Child doesn't listen at all. But they should realize it's just their mental state that got reflected in the kind of child that they got. Stated in the Shastras, Yatha Yonir Yatha Bijam. Yatha Yoni indicates the mother, Yatha Bijam indicates the father. If the mental state of the parents is prepared before they have sex, the child which they will beget will certainly reflect their mental condition. And we have seen even one of the parents, mother or father, being in this Transcendental consciousness actually makes a huge difference. So this is one of my personal goals, to go and tell anybody who is getting married, saying that do Garbhadana Samskara. Even if they are not devotees, at least they should do the ceremony, Garbhadana Samskara. Even that helps. It's so powerful. And of course, devotees should do, no question. It is therefore understood by the words Atma Samatan that both Prthu Maharaj and Archi underwent the Garbhadana purificatory process before begetting children, and thus they begot all their sons according to their desires and purified mental states. Prthu Maharaj did not get his children out of lust, nor was he attracted to his wife for sense gratificatory purposes. See, this one is so, yeah, I keep talking about this again and again. He begot the children as a grihastha for the future administration of his government all over the world. And it was just based on religious principles, not for sense gratification. Mm. Just this one regulative principle most devotees break. Most devotees. Right? Then obviously it's difficult to make progress. And then again, such things say, no, 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 they're all young couples. Why you are enforcing these things? I am not enforcing. Prabhupada is talking about this. Our problem is we don't read these purports and take them seriously. We read this, okay, 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 Garbhadan Samskara, okay, I know this, I know this, I know this. We are reading for knowledge. We are not reading for personal application. And knowledge is being given for personal application. Gnanam, Vignanam, Sahitam. We have to understand all this being written here is for our benefit, not for somebody else's benefit. I don't know why devotees can't understand that reading Prabhupada's purports and applying those instructions being given is for our benefit, not for, it's so important because we want to really progress in bhakti, then we have to follow these instructions. It will make things easier. The other day I was giving a class in somewhere else, and after the class, devotee said, "Prabhu, thank you for your whiplashing class." And what I was doing, I was just reading Prabhupada's purpose like this and highlighting things. And I was like a bit surprised, saying that why whiplashing? I mean, this is what is this how every class has to be. This is because every purport Prabhupada has something or the other hitting us, isn't it? But we are very afraid. Oh, people are going to run away. People are going to run away from whom? Not from us, from Prabhupada. It's better they run away that way, right? Because Prabhupada said books are the basis. If now devotees can't read and digest Prabhupada's books, then what is the point? So we have to read Prabhupada's books seriously. Give it the due importance. We say in English, due importance. Meaning, okay, Prabhupada is saying follow, do Garbhadana purificatory process. Don't be attracted to wife for sense gratificatory purpose. Then we should try to do that. Of course, we might not be qualified. We might be failing every now and then. That's okay. That's not a problem. That is why we are in this material world. Otherwise, we would have been in the spiritual world if we were already so pure. But we should at least not do it willingly. At least we should, accidentally it happens and then we are repenting and begging for mercy and trying hard. That's what is required. Vijitashvam dhumra kesham haryaksham dravinam vrukam sarvesham lokapalanam dadharaikah tuturgunan. After begetting five sons named Vijitashva, Dhumrakesha, Haryaksha, Dravina, and Vruka, Prthu Maharaj continued to rule the planet. He accepted all the qualities of the deities who governed all other planets. In each and every planet, there is a predominating deity. It is understood from Bhagavad Gita that in the sun, there is a predominating deity named Vivaswan. Similarly, there is a predominating deity of the moon and of the various planets. Actually, the predominating deities in all the other planets are descendants from the predominating deities of the sun and moon. Surya Vamsha, Chandra Vamsha. On this planet Earth, there are two Kshatriya dynasties, one coming from the predominating deity of the sun, and the other from the moon. Yeah, Surya Vamsha, Chandra Vamsha. When monarchy existed on this planet, the chief member was one of the members of the Surya Vamsha or Chandra Vamsha. Okay, and the subordinate kings belong to Chandra Vamsha till Krishna appeared, right? However, Maharaj Prithu was so powerful that he could exhibit all the qualities of the predominating deities and other planets. In modern age, people from Earth have tried to go to the moon, but they have not been able to find anyone there. What to speak of meeting the moon's predominating deity? Because they're not qualified. They're not qualified to find anyone. The Vedic literature, however, repeatedly informs us that the moon is full of highly elevated inhabitants who are counted amongst the demigods. We are therefore always in doubt about what kind of moon adventure the modern scientists of this planet Earth have undertaken and just wasted our taxpayers' money. गोपीथाय जगत्सृष्टेः कालेष्वे स्वे अच्युतात्मकः मनोवाग्वृत्तिभिः सौम्यैर्गुणैः समरञ्जयन् प्रजाः. Since Maharaja Pruthu was a perfect devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he wanted to protect the Lord's creation by pleasing the various citizens according to their various desires. Of course, because these desires were all legitimate as per Vedic rules. Therefore, Prthu Maharaja used to please them in all respects by his words, mentality, works, and gentle behavior, meaning fulfilling the needs of the citizens. This is what the king has to do, administrator has to do. As will be explained in the next verse, Prithu Maharaj used to please all kinds of citizens by his extraordinary capacity to understand the mentality of others. Indeed, his dealings were so perfect that every one of the citizens was very much satisfied and lived in complete peace. The word Achyutatmakaha is significant in this verse, for Maharaja Prithu used to rule this planet as the representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He knew that he was the representative of the Lord and that the Lord's creation must be protected intelligently. Atheists cannot understand the purpose behind the creation. Although this material world is condemned when it is compared to the spiritual world, there is still some purpose behind it. Modern scientists and philosophers cannot understand that purpose, nor do they believe in the existence of a creator. They try to establish everything by their so-called scientific research, but they do not center anything around the Supreme Creator. A devotee, however, can understand the purpose of creation, which is to give facilities to the individual living entities who want to lord it over material nature. The ruler of this planet should therefore know that all inhabitants, especially human beings, have come to this material world for sense enjoyment. It is therefore the duty of the ruler to satisfy them in their sense enjoyment, as well as to elevate them to Krishna consciousness, so that they all can ultimately return home back to God. And this is the whole idea of Varnashrama. Without Varnashrama, we cannot understand how these two things can coexist. We cannot understand how sense enjoyment can be there and at the same time one can elevate. Not that sense enjoyment is there and I'm somehow, floating, hanging around in Krishna consciousness. No, Prabhupada is saying elevate them. So this is the whole Varnashrama system where the sense enjoyment is authentic or legal or approved. And because all that sense enjoyment is centered around Krishna. Say somebody wants to buy new clothes, okay, buy around a festival. Somebody wants to eat nice food, okay, good, offer it to the Lord and accept it. Somebody wants children, yes, produce Krishna conscious children. So this is the sense enjoyment which was centered around Krishna. So the whole Varnashrama actually is designed for that. The basis is traditional life. The basis of Varnashrama is traditional life. What we today, for us, we call traditional life. Was the basis. Everything being done, mm, all festivals, everything that was being done and celebrated, and people that used to be the enjoyment, right? But it is all centered uh, around the Supreme Lord. Okay, you want to see some movie? Yes, okay, dramas about Krishna, about various Purana, happenings from Purana, etc. Everything was centered around the Lord, and of course, and even demigods times, but the worship of demigods also eventually brings them. In India, the demigods, they're also Supreme Lord also, whether they know or not, right? Because everybody gets elevated Their taste is higher taste compared to the cheap, lower taste of this Kali Yuga. So that was actually what Prabhupada's idea was, saying that, if we bring back this Vedic culture, then automatically people will become, it will become, environment will be more conducive for Krishna consciousness. Just imagine trying to preach to somebody who doesn't, who's almost like an atheist, versus preaching to cultured people. Of course, today's cultured people are also kind of confused, but at least cultured people are more receptive. We see that they are more in Sattva Guna. And it's much easier to bring somebody who's in Sattva Guna to Bhakti. Mm. So this is required. So all devotees first they have to follow. If they follow traditional culture in their life, then it becomes easier. Actually, my Guru Maharaj, his own is Bhakti Vikas Maharaj, he's so particular about this Varnashrama that specifically at the time of initiation, he enforces Vedic rules for devotees to follow. Mm. For example, parting hair in the middle, wearing sindoor, braiding your hair, for Mataji's covering the head, wearing simple clothes, not fancy clothes. And Prabhu's also, wear traditional dress, shave your head, leave a shikha. This is Vedic life. This is the traditional culture. So he wants to at least introduce them. So, okay, at least you might not do it after initiation. At least on the day of initiation, come like this. And at least people will understand, oh, okay, why this? Okay, this is how people used to live before. Mm. And somebody who shaves his head and leaves his shika for at least initiation, then he realizes, okay, sometime at least I have to leave my shika later, sometime, or leave a small shika. So it just becomes part of our life and thinking. And these things we don't have to do for ourselves. We are doing it for the world. Of course, it'll also help us also because in Kali Yuga, even devotees are, like troubled by materialism around us, right? And we also end up engaging in sense gratification, whether we like it or not. So this kind of society will actually help devotees as well. Why only non-devotees? With this idea in mind, the king or government head should rule the world. In this way, everyone will be satisfied. How can this be accomplished? There are many examples like Prthu Maharaj, and the history of his regency on this planet is elaborately described in Srimad Bhagavatam. Even in this fallen age, if the rulers, governors, and presidents take advantage of Prthu Maharaj's example, there will certainly be a reign of peace and prosperity throughout the world. So Prabhupada is saying they have to take Prthu Maharaj's example. What is Prthu Maharaj doing? He's just following Varnashrama. This is Varnashram. Give them opportunities for approved sense enjoyment and elevate them to Krishna consciousness. This is what rulers have to do. Then there will be peace and prosperity throughout the world. राज्येत्यधान नामधेयं सोमराजा इवापरः सूर्यवद्विसृजन् गृह्णन् प्रतपंश्च भुवो वसु. Maharaja Prathu became as celebrated as a king as Somaraja, the king of the moon. He is also powerful and exacting, just like the sun god who distributes heat and light and at the same time exacts all the planetary waters. Strong ruling, exacting means. In this verse, Maharaja Prithu is compared to the kings of the moon and the sun. The king of the moon and the king of the sun serve as examples of how the Lord desires the universe to be ruled perfectly, pakka. The sun distributes heat and light and at the same time exacts water from all planets. The moon is very pleasing at night and one becomes fatigued after a day's labor in the sun, he can enjoy the moonshine. Like the sun god, Prthu Maharaj distributed his heat and light to give protection to his kingdom, for without heat and light no one can exist. Similarly, Prthu Maharaj exacted taxes and gave such strong orders to the citizens and government that no one had the power to disobey him. This is exacting. On the other hand, he pleased everyone just like the moonshine. Both the sun and the moon have particular influences by which they maintain order in the universe, and modern scientists and philosophers should become familiar with the Supreme Lord's perfect plan for universal Maintenance. Durdarshas tejasve tejasevagnir mahendra iva durjayah titikshaya dharitriva dyaur ivabhishtadondrinam. Maharaja Prithu was so strong and powerful that no one could disobey his orders any more than one could conquer fire itself. He was so strong that he was compared to Indra, the king of heaven, whose power is insuperable. On the other hand, Maharaja Prithu was also as tolerant as the earth, and in fulfilling various desires of the human society, he was like heaven itself. It is the duty of a king to give protection to the citizens and fulfill their desires. At the same time, citizens must obey the laws of the state. Both have to happen. Maharaja Prithu maintained all the standards of good government, and he was so invincible that no one could disobey his orders any more than a person could stop heat and light emanating from a fire. Who can stop heat and light emanating from fire? No one can. Similarly, no one could disobey his orders. He was so strong and powerful that he was compared to the king of heaven, Indra. In this age, modern scientists have been experimenting with nuclear weapons, and in a former age, they used to release Brahmastras. But all these Brahmastras and nuclear weapons are insignificant compared to the thunderbolt of the king of heaven. When Indra releases a thunderbolt, even the biggest hills and mountains crack. On the other hand, Maharaja Prithu was as tolerant as the earth itself, and he fulfilled all the desires of his citizens just like torrents of rain from the sky. Without rainfall, it is not possible to fulfill one's various desires on this planet. Stated in Bhagavad Gita, Parjanyad Anna Sambhavaha. Food grains are produced only because rain falls from the sky. And without grains, no one on earth can be satisfied. Consequently, an unlimited distribution of mercy is compared to the water falling from the clouds. Maharaja Prithu distributed his mercy incessantly, much like rainfall. In other words, Maharaja Prithu was softer than a rose flower and harder than a thunderbolt. In this way, he ruled over his kingdom. Still okay. Varshati sma yatha kamam parjanya iva tarpayan samudra iva durbodha satvena chalarad iva. Just as rainfall satisfies everyone's desires, Maharaja Prithu used to satisfy everyone. He was like the sea, in that no one could understand his depths, and he was like Meru, the king of hills, in the fixity of his purpose. Maharaja Prithu used to distribute his mercy to suffering humanity, and it was like rainfall after excessive heat. The ocean is wide and expansive, and it is very difficult to measure its length and breadth. Similarly, Prthu Maharaj was so deep and grave that no one could fathom his purposes. The hill known as Meru is fixed in the universe as a universal pivot, and no one can move it an inch from its position. Similarly, no one could ever dissuade Prthu Maharaj when he was determined. So we have to learn this Utsaha, Nishchaya, Dhairya. We also have to be fixed in our purpose, like Meru. Okay, I'll stop here. Any questions, comments? Yeah, Shashank.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Pranam.
So, confusion in the purport, it was mentioned before begetting a children, all the samskaras has to be done, like Prthu
Yeah,
Maharaj and Archie.
yeah,
So, like if it is middle or people, like confusion is like people they are not knowing, and many kids are born now.
correct,
So, to bring them then to Krishna consciousness, then also it will be difficult, no, Prabhu.
correct.
So, how to do like how to like make them to Krishna consciousness? Because we know
No,
we
no, we
did.
don't have to make them Krishna. That's what I said. See, for outside people, all we have to do is, as a samskara, we should get them to do Garbhadana samskara, just as a samskara. Not even they might not have the right consciousness or whatever. Right? Even if they just simply follow the samskara itself is so powerful.
Okay.
Right? And then on top, see, samskara, if you do, you might not beget a devotee, but at least you will beget sattvic children. Now, if you do with Krishna consciousness and Garbhadana samskara, then it's even powerful because you will get devotees.
Mm.
I'm not an expert in this, but this is what I understand of Garbhadana Samskara. Because if Samskara means basically even previously people, normal people used to follow, not just devotees.
Okay, Prabhu. Okay.
So the idea, Prabhupada actually highlights this in his purports to make this 10 important samskaras, right, prevalent in human society. Mm. So we should make sure that everybody understands, even normal people who are not devotees, and we don't have to preach to them as devotees. We should just preach to them like culture. Follow these samskaras; it will help you. It will benefit you, which is true. Which is why these samskaras have actually are there in the first place. So somehow we can just tell people, which is actually marriage. What is the best gift on marriage when you go to attend somebody's marriage? It's a book on Garbhadana Samskara. Mm. Gift that book. Don't give Bhagavad Gita. Actually, this is more powerful than that. This will be more beneficial because Bhagavad Gita they may or may not read. Garbhadana Samskara, at least if we, there are some rituals. Somebody might say, oh, okay, there's some rituals I might follow. That will also be beneficial. So much beneficial.
Okay, Prabhu. So if they are newly married, we can, even they are non-devotees, we can tell them follow this
Yeah,
samskara.
yes, absolutely. That's why I said you give that book as gift. Ask them to read. They'll help them understand, saying that, this is going to benefit you. It's very simple. See, the parents today are really struggling to bring up their children, you know. Uh, However, they don't know that they are, begetting children like cats and dogs. But they want their children to be like gods, like very well behaved. They should listen to them. They should do all the right things. No, this is all requires qualification. So we can tell them, if you do this, you'll benefit it. You'll get such children who listen to you. Mm. So people will get benefited by following this.
Okay, Prabhu.
Yeah,
And the second question I had,
yeah.
Prabhu, before begetting, like it was very clear stated, Prabhu. So if it was done at the end or like there are many sanskaras like from initially before begetting, I
Mm,
say like 4 times. But if
mm.
the last one is done, is that
Yeah, that's what the Pujari is saying, that it'll, devotee Pujari is saying it'll be benefited, you will be benefited. Don't have to worry too much.
okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, Prabhu, Prabhu.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yeah.
Prabhu, you touched upon very important aspect that these puppets are not, like whipping. It is basically what is the normal expectation from devotees, right?
Mm,
Just wanted to discuss one important aspect. So I have experienced that in some temples and some centers,
mm-hmm,
there is a distinction between two kinds of preaching.
mm-hmm,
I often hear that, okay, we should give Bhagavad Gita classes to the outsiders, then that class should be very lenient, like in the sense
mm.
that we should not be having very heavy purports of
Yeah,
Prabhupada.
yeah,
All.
yeah.
And then I also questioned that center head that why it is like that. I mean, we can just preach the message of Prabhupada without any just distinction because it might adulterate the or dilute the essence.
Yeah.
Just
Okay. So, yeah. So it's an important question. See, the point is that we should always give Krishna consciousness based on the adhikara of the people, right? Which means that when we came to Krishna consciousness also, or even if somebody reads Bhagavad Gita today, he or she will only pick up whatever they can understand at their level of surrender or their level of faith, right? So we should, what is recommended is to give what can be consumed by others, but not wrong. We should not say wrong things. We should not say false things. But we don't have to, for example, are we going to talk about love of Krishna for beginning devotees? We won't. Is that wrong? No, it's absolutely not wrong because they can't understand it, right? So even in Prabhupada's purpose, it's not that every line can be digested by a beginner, and we don't go into every line. I mean, I myself follow this approach. I don't go into every line. I don't read purports when I'm preaching to newcomers, but I will pick those important things which will lay the proper foundation. Now what lays the proper foundation, that depends on the preacher and his mood, right? For example, for me, the proper foundation is not to engage in sense gratification, to do everything for the pleasure of the Lord. That's the foundation, right? Might, but philosophically, I might not go too deep into some, very esoteric things and this and that and all that. For example, right, in the second chapter, if suppose say we start discussing Sthita Pragna, how much will people be able to appreciate Sthita Pragna? I mean, they might hear, but okay, I mean, yeah, this is nice, this is somebody exalted. There's nothing to what, I mean, no connection with me because they can't understand these principles, right? I mean, the devotees themselves can't understand the state of Sthita Pragna because it is Brahma Bhuta, the very exalted platform. Yeah, we might just say in passing, saying that, Sthita Pragna, this is his qualities. We might not go into the depth of these verses when we are preaching to newcomers. That doesn't mean that we are diluting. There's a difference between diluting. For example, if somebody says it's okay to do sense gratification, then it's diluting. Okay. But if we don't talk about, say, okay, Krishna Prema or some very higher topics, it's not diluting. It's just preparing devotees on the right platform so that tomorrow they can hear and digest it. And so preaching requires strategy, right? So we do preaching at like possibly 2 or 3 levels. First is a general audience, right? Class, which is not dilutive, but it is not very much in detail. Then, as people make progress, for example, they're accepting to do more rounds of chanting, they're asking questions, etc., then we will create another study group, right? Where we will go into a lot more depth. We will go there and, we will talk about each and every line of Prabhupada's purpose, help them understand everything. But there has to be a transition from the beginner stage to showing some interest to make progress to understand more in Krishna consciousness, etc. So once we see that they are making progress, we can give them more deeper stuff, right? But see, preaching is the art. Preaching is the art. We need to know. We need to be able to connect without upsetting people, without you know. So it has to be done very tactfully. That is why it's not like we cannot just be like um, completely blunt. Um, uh, we have to see the maturity of the audience because see, we are not here to push people away. If you just keep talking about love of Krishna and some esoteric stuff, what will people appreciate? I'm using this topic because it's easy to relate, right? Like that, we also have to know what are other things that people can't digest. We might not say something dilutive about this. For example, Striyo Vaishya Tata Shudra. When that verse comes, it's not that we were going to say, no, 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 this is completely wrong. This is not applicable in this age. Absolutely not. But we should be able to tell people what this means. Why this Triyo Vaishya Tata Shudra? It's very easy to explain this verse, but a lot of people I see they're very confused or they struggle to explain this verse to people. Even newcomers, we can explain this. So something is, your own realization, and that will itself. For example, if you don't accept this verse as a devotee, what will you explain to others? You will just reject it yourself because you didn't understand it in the first place, right? So preaching is I mean, it's a big field. We can go on for hours discussing this, right? So it requires a separate conversation. But the idea is that we should never dilute a proposition. We should never dilute what has been said. We might not give something. We might choose not to give something which is totally acceptable, but we should not dilute instruction just because somebody is a newcomer. If you think they are not ready for it, don't tell them now. Tell them later. That's all.
Yeah, clear, bro.
Okay. Okay. Anything else? Okay, we'll close here. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyo cha paridhanam bhavnebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namo ananta koti vaishnavati ki jai. Anyway, I mean, just one more thing on that, right? I see at least my own preaching approach, even though we are reasonably heavy, I feel, in our classes, but I see that devotees are still very interested, because they don't know anything else. They don't know dilutive proposition, right? Oh, if they say, okay, yeah, yeah, yoga means indriya samyama, they understand, oh, yeah, okay, we have to control our senses. Then they'll come and say, okay, I'm struggling, what should I do? And say, okay, start chanting, desire to get over it. So for them, they don't know anything else at all. They don't know that, oh, no, no, I can also do bhakti with sense gratification. They don't know that. because they're not exposed to the thought process, right? Because Prabhupada doesn't talk about that in his purpose, and we don't also speak like, हाँ ठीक है चलता है कुछ भी कर सकते हैं. No, right? So for example, in our center in Ulimavu, Kantimala is not there in the counter. We don't sell Kantimala. So I made it. I've given clear instructions saying that if somebody wants Kantimala, they need to come and speak to me. And then devotees come and speak to me saying that I need Kantimala. Then I say, okay, what are you following? What rules are you following? So when we create some process, some system, some standards, it doesn't become difficult. People will simply follow because they don't know anything else. When they're exposed to dilutive stuff, that's when problem happens. So in one way, it's easier if devotees are not exposed to this so-called dilution. It makes preaching also much easier. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'll close there. Hare Krishna.